There comes a sacred point in the chosen one's life where the weight finally lifts, and everything that once felt endless suddenly begins to make sense. You've endured sleepless nights, silent prayers, and unanswered questions, but deep down, your soul knew something divine was being shaped within you. This was not ordinary suffering. It was a heavenly refining process meant to build endurance, purity, and faith. Every delay, every loss, and every rejection was part of the sacred fire that stripped away what couldn't go with you into the next chapter. For so long, you thought God had forgotten you, but now you can feel the shift not outside of you but within. The peace that passes understanding is settling into your spirit, and you finally understand that what you went through was never meant to destroy you. Heaven has whispered, "It is done." The spiritual court has ruled in your favor. You've passed the test you didn't even realize was the final one. The pressure has lifted. The test is over. Chosen one, you'll never be tested like that again. The depth of your pain wasn't punishment, it was purification. God knew what He placed inside of you could only be revealed through the crushing. Just like oil cannot flow until the olive is pressed, your anointing couldn't emerge until you were broken open by life's hardest seasons. Every heartbreak, betrayal, and failure was heaven's way of unlocking your divine capacity to love, lead, and heal others. You see, surface-level faith can't withstand spiritual warfare. God needed to dig deeper into your roots, exposing insecurities, fears, and false attachments, so that your foundation would be unshakable. The reason it hurts so much is because the transformation was happening at a cellular level of your soul. It was spiritual surgery, painful but necessary. Now that pain has turned into power. You're no longer fragile, you're fortified. The quiet moments where you heard nothing from God were not abandonment, they were calibration. Heaven was adjusting your sensitivity to divine timing and teaching you that true faith does not rely on constant reassurance. The silence you feared was actually God's classroom, where trust was taught not by words but by stillness. During that silence, many gave up. They lost hope because they mistook divine delay for divine denial. But you didn't quit. You stayed. You believed even when the heavens felt closed. That is what separated you as the chosen one, your ability to remain faithful even when unseen forces tried to convince you that God was done with you. Because of your endurance in silence, you now walk with divine confidence, knowing heaven always heard you. What you thought was rejection was actually divine protection. There were doors that didn't open because they were never designed for your destiny. God concealed you not to punish you, but to preserve the purity of your purpose. While others were being seen, you were being shaped. While others were celebrated, you were being consecrated. The world couldn't handle your full light yet, so heaven covered you. Hidden seasons are not wasted seasons. They are where the chosen ones grow their roots deep in wisdom and faith before their fruit becomes visible. Just like David was anointed in the shadows before being called to the palace, you too were trained in isolation for public purpose. You weren't overlooked, you were reserved, and now your unveiling begins. Every storm, every heartbreak, every betrayal you endured was a refining fire meant to strengthen your spirit. God allowed the heat to rise, not to destroy you, but to burn away impurities and false identities. Just as gold must be tested by fire to reveal its true value, your faith had to be proven through adversity. It wasn't easy, you cried, you doubted, you even questioned your calling at times. But through every moment your character grew stronger, your discernment sharper, and your empathy deeper. You learned to pray not from desperation, but from authority. You learned that storms don't destroy the anointed, they reveal them. The fire refined you into something unstoppable. You've come out shining, and heaven approves. Let's be honest, there were moments when it all felt unfair. You watched people who didn't love as deeply or work as hard receive blessings you prayed for. You questioned why your kindness seemed to be repaid with betrayal. But here's the truth. Fairness is not the language of heaven, purpose is. God wasn't trying to hurt you. He was preparing you for weight others couldn't carry. Those who seem to rise without testing often fall without warning because their roots weren't formed in pressure. But you, chosen one, were built through fire. You carry stability that cannot be shaken by applause or opinion. Your trials birth spiritual maturity, the kind that can steward miracles without pride. It wasn't unfair, it was divine filtration. The moment you thought you were breaking was actually the moment heaven declared your breakthrough. When your spirit hit rock bottom, your ego shattered, and that's when your higher self emerged. Every tear watered the soil for your next level. You had to reach that level of surrender for divine strength to take over. Sometimes God lets us hit the end of ourselves so we can finally meet Him fully. The end of your control was the beginning of His glory. That moment when you whispered, "I can't do this anymore," was when heaven said, "Now I can." You didn't fail, you transitioned from your own power to divine power. The breaking didn't end you, it transformed you. Not a single tear you cried was unseen. The angels assigned to your life recorded every silent prayer, every sleepless night, and every act of faith you performed in the dark. Heaven's courtroom took account of it all. You weren't being ignored, you were being documented for divine recognition. This is why the breakthrough feels heavy, because it's backed by justice. God's rewards aren't random, they're righteous. You stayed pure when you could have gotten even. You stayed kind when bitterness tried to consume you. And now, heaven's compensation is being released in ways that will silence every doubt. Heaven saw it all, and now heaven moves. If you've been feeling lighter lately, less anxious, more at peace, it's not your imagination. The spiritual warfare that once surrounded you has lifted. The assignments against your destiny have expired because their purpose is fulfilled. You have spiritually graduated. The atmosphere around you is now aligned with favor, not warfare. You'll begin noticing divine alignments happening faster, people entering your life with purpose, doors opening without effort, and answers coming with clarity. This is what happens when the test ends, resistance turns into release. What was once blocked is now blessed. The shift has begun, and it's irreversible. The battles you once feared no longer shake you because you're no longer the same person who entered that storm. The test was meant to strip away your old self, the one that doubted, overgave, and tried to please everyone. That version of you had to die for your true self to emerge. Now you walk differently. You speak with conviction. You move with discernment. The people who once intimidated you now sense your spiritual authority. You no longer chase, you attract, because your frequency has shifted from desperation to destiny. You've evolved permanently. Some of the battles you fought weren't even yours, they were generational. You stood in the middle of patterns that had destroyed others before you, and somehow you made it out. You were chosen to break cycles of poverty, fear, betrayal, and rejection that ran through your lineage. The heaviness you carried wasn't personal, it was ancestral. Heaven trusted you to stand where others fell and to rewrite the story that began long before you were born. Think about it, every time you forgave when bitterness would have been easier, every time you prayed instead of retaliating, every time you chose peace over revenge, you shifted the spiritual blueprint of your bloodline. That's why it felt unbearable at times. You weren't just fighting for yourself. You were redeeming generations through your obedience. You didn't just survive for you. You survived for everyone connected to your name. When heaven promotes you, it doesn't need to announce it to the world first. It starts by changing your spiritual rank. You've been promoted in silence, and now your atmosphere will begin to respond to that elevation. Opportunities that used to ignore you will now seek you. People who underestimated you will suddenly recognize your light. You didn't chase this favor, you earned it through endurance. This is what divine elevation looks like. Your voice gains weight in rooms you once felt invisible in. You walk into spaces and shift energy just by being present. That's the mark of someone who has completed their testing season. The authority you now carry isn't from man, it's from heaven. You are no longer being prepared, you are being presented. One of the hardest parts of your test was learning to let go, not just of people, but of timelines, outcomes, and expectations. You had to learn that surrender is not defeat, it's divine wisdom. Holding on too tightly was delaying what God was trying to bring. Once you released control, the flow began again. Many of the people who left weren't meant to stay for your next chapter. Some were assignments, not life partners. Others were distractions dressed as comfort. But when you finally released them, peace returned. You learned that what's meant for you doesn't require chasing. It recognizes you by your spiritual signature. Letting go wasn't loss, it was alignment. Most people expect miracles to come with fireworks, but divine miracles often arrive softly, disguised as ordinary days that shift everything. You'll wake up one morning, check your email, answer a call, and suddenly realize your life has changed. This quiet unfolding is proof that you're walking in divine timing. God doesn't need to announce what He's doing. His results speak louder than words. Your miracle might not look like what you prayed for, but it will be exactly what your soul needs. It might come through an unexpected opportunity, a sudden reconciliation, or a revelation that brings healing. The more you stay aligned, the faster the manifestation will unfold. Stay grounded, your miracle has already started forming. When a chosen one completes a divine test, they step into a level of protection that cannot be penetrated by ordinary attacks. The warfare that used to shake you now bounces off your aura. The enemy knows your strength, and so do the forces of light. You have spiritual immunity, not because you're invincible, but because your alignment with God's will has become your shield. There were times you felt spiritually under siege, waking up tired from invisible battles. But that was before you realized your authority. Now you speak, and things shift. You declare peace, and chaos dissolves. You carry heaven's backing wherever you go, and no weapon formed against you can prosper because your vibration is higher than fear. You are shielded, sealed, and strengthened permanently. There's a holy restoration happening around you right now. Everything that was taken, delayed, or seemingly destroyed is being reassembled and returned in divine order. But it's coming back multiplied, stronger, purer, and more aligned than before. God never lets a chosen one lose without purpose. Every subtraction was preparation for a greater addition. That relationship that broke you, it taught you boundaries. That opportunity that slipped away, it redirected you toward your calling. That season of lack, it taught you to trust provision over possessions. And now, heaven is ready to repay you for every tear and trial. The restoration will not be quiet, it will be undeniable. Your comeback will speak louder than your suffering ever did. Karma in divine hands is not revenge, it's revelation. The people who mocked your journey, who used your kindness, who laughed when you were down, they're now being shown the truth about who you are. They're realizing you weren't weak, you were chosen. You weren't lost, you were in preparation. God is letting them see your rise, not to humiliate them, but to educate them. Many of them will come back, not to reconnect, but to confess. They'll say, I didn't understand you before, and you'll forgive them without bitterness. Because that's what chosen ones do, they extend grace even to those who misused it before. Your response will show the world the difference between elevation and ego. Your glow-up is divine justice, pure, peaceful, and undeniable. If you felt lighter lately, it's because your spiritual vibration has changed. You're not attracting chaos anymore, you're radiating peace. People are drawn to your calm energy without understanding why. It's because you've passed through fire and emerged with spiritual gold, authenticity, empathy, and divine wisdom. Even your surroundings feel different now. Music, conversations, and habits that once comforted you may no longer fit your new vibration. That's okay, you're evolving. Your frequency now resonates with abundance, love, and clarity. And as a result, your life will begin reflecting that energy in real, tangible ways. You are now living proof that inner healing changes outer reality. Now that the testing season is over, you're being prepared for your next divine assignment. It may come as an idea, a vision, or a pull toward a cause that stirs your soul. Don't ignore it, that's the next chapter of your purpose unfolding. The same strength that carried you through the storm is now being redirected toward impact and influence. You'll notice new doors opening, platforms, people, and partnerships aligning effortlessly. That's not coincidence, it's confirmation. The universe recognizes your readiness. The delay was not denial, it was divine strategy. God withheld the platform until your heart could carry the weight of it without pride. The next move you make won't be ordinary, it will be legacy. This is the moment heaven had written for you since the beginning, completion. The test is over, the fire has cooled, and you are no longer who you used to be. You have graduated from survival into sovereignty. Every lesson, every loss, and every sleepless night has been transformed into wisdom. You have become the living proof that divine timing never fails. Now you walk with quiet confidence. You no longer chase validation because your validation comes from alignment. You no longer explain your calling because your results do the speaking. The spiritual pressure that once kept you in constant warfare has lifted permanently. You are now free to live, build, love, and thrive from a higher frequency. Chosen one, it's finally done. You'll never be tested like that again. If this message resonated with your spirit, it's because it was meant for you. You are stepping into a new reality, one where peace replaces pressure and confirmation replaces confusion. You have made it through the refining fire, and now you shine differently, divinely. If you feel this in your soul, type "It's finally done" in the comments below to affirm your new chapter. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Anointed Era, where messages like this remind you that you are seen, chosen, and divinely guided.